Yeah, what's going on, guys? Figured I'd make a video on this machine. It's really nice shape. Got this one off of my uncle. It's a 2000, and it is made by Electrolux, which happened to be a subsidiary of Sears Roebuck and Company. So basically, Sears was the parent company of Electrolux. So they were made under Craftsman, AYP, American Yard Products. But American Yard Products' parent company was Electrolux, and Sears owned Electrolux, just like they own Kenmore and other brands. The neat thing about this is, being a 2000, by then the Sears Craftsman units had that one-piece pan. You know what I mean? This wasn't here; it went down all the way. 96 was the switchover year. It was the last year that they did it like that. In fact, they're a funny one because it still had, like on mine, you know, the separate floorboards and the separate back end and the top part, but the hood was round, not square like the 95 and back. By 97, they went to the pan. So this is like an updated version of mine because, you know, it's got the more stylish curve to it. So it's basically a Craftsman, just masked in a different, you know, color and scheme. But I'll just, you know, oh, and just to note, I got it done, and I got pictures of it just before it rained, so that's why it's wet now, and that was lucky. That was really lucky. This one has an interesting seat. It's rubber, so you can't rip it like those other ones. But anyway, right here is the model tag, Electrolux. Made in USA, Orangeburg, South Carolina. It's exactly where the Sears ones, the Craftsmans, were made, so. As well as the Husqvarnas. And what else? I think they made a brand name, Champion. But the big, what's the third big one? Pool On. That was also AYP-Electrolux. And before it was AYP-Electrolux, Roper was the contracted company that Sears used. I don't know if Roper was affiliated with Sears the way Electrolux was. Electrolux was Sears. But these things came out of that heyday, you know what I mean? Sears sold everything that came out of Sears was quality. Their tools, their machinery. I mean, you know, even other departments. But, you know, those were the big ones. Okay, so the deck was off. This is the 38-inch deck. This is the cable-driven one. So if you look down here, see where the cable hooks in? So this one was not rod-driven. That cable runs up through a little hole, and it meets right here. That arm, see that eyelet on it? That's the other end of the cable. So that's the one thing with these ones, is those cables tend to go bad. Rod ones you never had to worry about. This engine wasn't the original engine that was on the machine. And as you can see, it says 13.5 horsepower, which 13.5 is really 13. This was a 12 horse engine. But you can convert a 12 horse engine to the 13, because all you gotta do is remove the 12 horsepower cover and then add the larger screen, and then you have your 13, because that's the only difference between the 12 and the 13. And again, I still can't verify for a fact 100% that, you know, it is a horsepower more because of it. But I am guessing that because it's drawing in more air, just like, you know, like a car that had, you know, like one of those older classic cars that had the hood scoops that drew in more air to get more power. I do believe it probably does have more power. Is it a full horsepower? I don't know. There may be people out there who know for a fact. Do I notice a difference? I don't know. But anyway, that's the cool thing about the flathead ones. You can convert the 12 to a 13. You just, if you have the bigger screen and you have a 13 cover, you can make it the 13. It's still it's still a 28 cubic inch, just like the 12. It's just got the bigger screen. Same carburetor, same everything else. That's the only difference. And also on the flatheads, the muffler bolted on the carburetor side. On the overhead valve ones, the muffler bolts opposite of the carburetor. But, I mean, you could just tell by the build quality, they're better. They were better machines. This one had the 2nd gen steering. Those very rarely go bad. That was the best one they made. And then they went on that cheaper one. That thing, that half moon, went down below. And, you know, they wear out because debris gets under there and it chews up the teeth on the gears, just like the John Deeres, which are notorious for. So, yeah, so the engine was off. I changed the oil on it, cleaned it. Air filter was already clean. Has a good, or probably original J19LM spark plugs. They don't go bad. Fresh gas. You know, it's gravity fed. Manual engage. And manual engage is nice because with manual engage, you don't have to worry about having, you could, okay, here's the thing that's cool about with these type. You can jump these machines and run them without a battery. If it has that electric PTO, it has to have the battery because it has to have a constant 12.4 volts to run that electric PTO clutch. If it drops below 12.4 volts, the electric PTO clutch shuts down and then the mower deck stops operating. So on these, like you've probably seen on mine, there's been plenty of times where I didn't have the battery and I was able to jump it and then operate it. The only thing I couldn't do was turn on the headlights, and that was more for show back then anyway. You know, they weren't bright. I mean, now you can put modern LEDs in and get them brighter. But back, you know, during this time period, it was more for show than anything. Maybe at dusk you put them on, or for safety. But yeah, it's a 38, cable driven. I'll show you what the blades look like, because that was the one thing that I mentioned. So these were definitely from down by the shore. There it is. Look at these suckers. They're not even, like, this is as bad as I've seen them get. Like, that's bad. That's all I can say about that. Compared to do I have a 38 that's not all shot? Yep. I put them in here. Yep, right here. Here's how they should have looked. They're a little rusty, but they're they still have their lift. The blade's still fully intact. See how worn these were? And that's the thing too. That's the one thing you'll notice. People don't look under the deck. Like, even when I sell stuff, people don't bother to look at the under the deck. That's the business end of the equipment. So, you know, naturally, that's the area you want to look besides the engine itself. But, you know, most people don't. But even though they don't, I always clean under there and sharpen the blades. Unless it's already clean and the blades are in really good shape. But otherwise, I usually go to it. What else is there to mention? But yeah, no, it's just cool. It's got that older style of body, but it was, you know, it's modernized, which was cool. Yeah, I'll start it real quick. And it's got a Peerless manual transmission by Tecumseh. Those are the best ones made. Not the Spicers, not the Danas, or the Footies. Peerless were the best. Like, if you take this Peerless transaxle off, they always sell on like eBay first and for the most money, because when people make mud mowers, you know, poor man ATVs, they use the Peerless transaxles. They're the most reliable. It's got the upgraded modern reverse safety, where you have to put the key after you start it into this reverse position to mow in reverse. And what else to say? It's got the, you know, basically the typical 6-prong plug and play for just about all Briggs engines. And I guess that was about the main thing. The only other thing I wanted to mention was John Deere's planning on moving their operations 100% to Mexico. And they just had a record year as far as sales last year, financially. And they're still getting ready to move to Mexico. Only way that's going to get stopped, because they're due to do it by 2025. The only way that's going to get stopped is if a Republican is elected president and stops it, tariffs it. The CEO wants to make more money, so people that are at John Deere plants making $100,000 a year, they want to pay Mexicans $20,000 a year. And also they'll save, so they'll save that way. Also, they'll be able to get the metal cheaper there, and they don't have to abide by the environmental policies in the United States. So that's a big problem. And John Deere's have issues. All their hoods are plastic. They're cracked 9 times out of 10. And then if you gotta buy a hood for a John Deere, they want like over $500 for a hood, unless you find a good used one. Their decks, if you take care of them, they're okay, but they tend to rot out too. But that's mainly because people don't clean underneath them. This one runs, it's just got a, on this cylinder, exhaust valve seat that popped out. Supposedly the previous guy had it repaired. Whoever repaired it didn't do it right. Because you can do the hammer and dolly trick, but is basically you take a hammer and a punch, put the seat back in where it's supposed to, and you punch the aluminum around the steel seat, which squeezes the aluminum closer to the seat so it doesn't pop out again. It's a common issue. It's easy to repair. You just gotta have a new head gasket. So that's the issue with that. So this cylinder isn't running right now on this one. That's the main thing that took this out. But also you can tell it's been pretty rode hard and put up wet. Otherwise they're okay. The other thing that makes John Deere, one other thing I don't like about John Deere that they're greedy about, if you needed a manual, they make you pay for it. And all the Sears products, you can still go on SearsPartsDirect.com and download every manual. So that's another thing I don't like. And they overprice their parts. And they have, but this one doesn't have it. Then another one I have, the steerings have issues where they wear out. It's an easy fix, but it's just cheap metal and the teeth go bad. And that's because it's up under here where all that debris is, you know, whatever, dirt, debris, sand, blah, 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 and chews up the gears. So that's why on these ones, the second gen keeping it up in here was smart. And the older ones even had a plate that stopped garbage from going in here. Like mine had the sector style one. They blocked off so garbage wouldn't go in there. But Husqvarna ones, the Husqvarna ones, I know that one I picked up that was I think a 2000 that one year, that had the cracked lens with the cracked grill. It said White Consolidated Industries, which means all they did was use a consolidation group to allow them to use the Husqvarna name. But then towards the end of the Sears run, AYP became Husqvarna. Now, Husqvarna is originally a company from Sweden that made chainsaws. That's not the same. It's the same company, but it's a completely different division. So it's all different management. You know, it's like Husqvarna USA. It's not the chainsaw division out of Sweden. But they stopped making lawn tractors. So they're out anyway now. And the Craftsman's, the machines that you still see branded Craftsman are made by MTD. But White Consolidated was not White Outdoor, which was originally its own company that MTD bought up. But they killed that brand, along with Boland's. What other brands did they kill? They killed a few of them off. Cub Cadet's their highest end, even though those aren't the greatest either. They're okay, but they have a lot of the same cheap components. And then, I guess at this point, yard machines would be the cheaper ones. But, it's a good machine. Stomp, 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 bang, bang, bang. Some of the machines were made where the lights could be turned on without the engine running. Most of them you have to have the engine running for the lights to turn on. Oh, and the original front tires were bald. But we found a Craftsman that was getting rid of that had good front tires, so got a couple good things off of that. But so the deck was put back on with the blades that were on my machine. I put the engine on, made it the 13, put the good front tires on, cleaned up, and she's good. These newer decks, even mine I think has it. Originally had safety brakes. So when you disengaged it, there was a setup that would cause these brakes to hit these pulleys to stop them right away. On the much older ones, they didn't have that. You really don't need them. In grass, the deck still shuts down quick. On paved surfaces, it takes a little bit longer. But with the brakes on, with the brake on, it shuts it off immediately. So that was just an added safety thing they put on. But other than that, same thing. Good machine. It's 2000, it's 24 years old, but it looks like it was hardly used. So I might give it another quick clean up. It's getting listed tonight. And maybe make just a quick start and run video for sale ad. So it's a nice, good, solid, powerful 38, which is good for people that have smaller decks. So I just felt like sharing that. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Later, bye.